Bloomberg has published a report about Naughty Dog and their upcoming game, Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, and how they are so far behind schedule that they now need to force crunch on the team. And the game is targeting mid 2027 internally. As from MBG, they said Bloomberg published a new report on Naughty Dog and Intergalactic Heretic Prophet. Naughty Dog staff were ordered mandatory overtime to complete a demo for Intergalactic from October until now. The demo was requested for review by Sony management. Guys, I'm telling you, I know people think I'm blowing the Ghost of Yotei stuff out of proportion when it comes to Sony and what happened with Sucker Punch. I think after Concord and how much money Sony has lost over the past year or so, maybe actually 2 years at this point, they are really starting to crack down on where the money is getting spent and what type of games are being made. And if it's inserting any kind of political ideology or agendas or, I don't know, girl bosses, anything to push the propaganda of the West, Sony has woken up to that. And I would argue, it seems to me, at least on the outside looking in, that they are starting to crack down on it. Why would Sony be requesting a demo out of the blue, if not for the Ghost of Yotei falling short of internal expectations? And you could be like, oh, Ghost of Yotei still sold over 4 million units, and it just launched a few months ago. It's doing great. For any other game, it's doing very good. For a sequel to a game that has over 14 million sales, the game is paling in comparison to that. And I would argue that Sony expected double the sales from what they got from it so far. And long-term is not looking great. And they just arguably let go of, or at least parted ways with, the studio head of Sucker Punch after nearly 3 decades of him. So now we go over to Naughty Dog, and Sony's like, well, what's going on over here now? Let's do a little bit more research, because this is supposed to be one of our heavy hitter games from our big studio of Naughty Dog. What are we doing here? The overtime was put into place due to missing several deadlines. Intergalactic is targeting a release mid-2027 internally, and some staff are worried crunch may get a lot worse as they get closer if it's this bad now, which makes me wonder if the rumors of an overhaul of this game were true. After the initial launch trailer debuted at, what was it, the Game Awards, I believe, the reaction from gamers by and large downvoted in droves. People are tired of the agenda pushing girl boss narrative. They're sick of it. This shit maybe would have flown in 2020 during the peak of wokeness, when this game started development. But now, hell no. This is the opposite of what people want. I'd argue it's the opposite of what people always wanted. It was just pushed into media everywhere and through every orifice back in 2020 during the peak of the pandemic. Authorized to speak publicly, this overtime period was an attempt to get the production back on track after several missed deadlines. And this comes to us from Tom Henderson, an Insider Gaming. He says, Naughty Dog is making overtime mandatory for Intergalactic developers. Naughty Dog is forcing the developers working on Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, to work overtime. This, according to a new report from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, which you might remember was the same guy we just talked about recently who pushed the AI story and left out key information in order to get maximum clicks on his story. So take it with a grain of salt, but at the same time, it's Naughty Dog. Wouldn't put it past them. In a story published on Thursday afternoon, Schreier states that the studio behind the games like The Last of Us and Uncharted has been pushing its staff to work long hours and get ready for an upcoming review of the demo by its parent company. It said that the request began in October for staff to work at least 8 extra hours per week. That's a lot, by the way. That's a lot. That's what's that? 2 hours, almost 2 hours every day, almost per week, with it being logged via a spreadsheet. This was done to make up for lost time due to missed deadlines. I'll tell you guys, by the way, When I worked at Sony, there was crunch time when we were getting towards the launch of Cash Guns Chaos, one of the games that I was a QA tester on. And it was a lot of work. We pulled very long shifts, like into the wee hours of the AM some nights, just to go home, go to sleep, and come back in after sleeping. We lived at the building, at the office. We lived there for what felt like a month and a half, 2 months. It was good money. The paychecks were really good relative to what we got paid previously to that. But man, was it exhausting. And I would almost argue that, sure, we got more accomplished, but it wasn't double the productivity with double the time. It was like 1.2% the productivity for double the time. People got tired after a while. People are human. The employees were instructed not to work more than 60 hours a week. The staff were told, the Schreier writes, staff were also told to return to the office 5 days a week for this period, up from 3 previously, sending some employees scrambling to find alternative care arrangements for their children and pets, which, yeah, that can be a shit show. If you have a schedule at home with kids and then they're forcing you to come in 5 days a week and spend extra time at the office, yikes, what a mess. Those who spoke to Schreier under the condition of anonymity are worried that if there's already mandatory overtime over 18 months away from release, it might get worse in the coming months. As of writing, Intergalactic is scheduled to release in mid-2027. Sony and Naughty Dog also declined to comment on the claims. Grums says Naughty Dog and Intergalactic, how it started versus how it's going. The Last of Us Part 1 had no crunch, says environment artist. Naughty Dog Studio orders employee overtime for Intergalactic. Again, lending credence to the fact that this game is being overhauled. I don't think that they can change the main protagonist to having hair and looking different. That would be a radical, wild change. But what is happening behind the scenes is, I would imagine, massive changes to things we did not see that were woke as fuck. And they're like, oh man, we had a lot of backlash from just the trailer. We should probably scale back what we were thinking of doing here. And because it was already so far along, they basically would have to redo massive portions of the game, if that's the case. And this is Naughty Dog on X, Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, Uncharted, The Last of Us, and now Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet. It marks Naughty Dog's first new franchise in over a decade. Meet Jordan in the announcement trailer for Intergalactic. Let's take I know we've all seen this already, but just a quick glance down memory lane. I will argue the game looks like it had so much potential. It looks like it'd be a cool adventure game going to different planets. And then it cuts to this and it got the G.I. Jane. Like, why? Who would think this is a good idea? Flat chested, shaved head, bisexual lighting in the background. Who approved this? We talk all the time about how you want to avoid getting at the kids. This is insidious shit where they're trying to normalize this kind of stuff. Again, too, a girl boss talk. Let's actually listen to how she talks to her here. I do love the music. Very 80s style.
Jordan,
Tell me something good.
well, you're right, it checks out. He's hiding out around the Superior Moon.
Excellent.
How is that excellent? He's next to fucking Superior. No one has left that planet in over 600 years. Anyone who even flies close to it is never heard from again.
Superstitions.
No. Superstitions are the crazy rumors about what happened on that planet. These are facts.
You worry too much.
You know what I worry just the right amount. I say we wait for him to leave, or how about we find a new lead? He's not worth it.
It's girl boss on girl boss.
I'm wasting my time, aren't I?
Can you please blame him? I don't need another hunter swooping in.
Who is swooping? No one is crazy enough to go there.
He clearly is.
He is clearly desperate.
And so am I, so claim him, or I will find another agent.
they
You
were
know what's
supposed to do.
unfortunate
Okay.
about
You know what?
the woke era of
You're the
gaming
boss.
is if there was no agenda that we all know Neil Druckmann's pushing with this, if there was no agenda and this was genuinely just the story they came up with, there might be something here that would be fun. Unfortunately, we're at the point right now where I'm like, sorry, you've already lost me as a customer. I can't get on board with this because I already know what you're doing. I saw what you did with The Last of Us Part 2. I saw how you completely cucked Joel. You inserted Abby and made this whole lesbian story, changing the dynamic of what The Last of Us even meant to push an agenda. Why? Why would you shit on a franchise that had so much potential? And then you're given the keys to do it again. And it looks, at least from the get-go, that this game is a massive, catastrophic financial failure before we even find out more information about it. And like I said, I feel like Sony proper, they know far more than we do about this. Don't get it twisted. And I would argue, if I were them, if I was Sony in Japan and I saw what was transpiring and how the dynamic of the gamers is shifting across the board, across the world right now, I would be demanding a demo. I'd want to know what's going on here. And I'd be playing it with a very keen eye to see, what are they doing with this game? Is it actually a game or is it a message? And if it's a message, there's a problem. But time's going to tell on this one. You already know we're going to be watching it closely. Jordan A. Munn and the girl boss city of the game. But we have crunch time for Naughty Dog pushing this game forward. And you know what? Like I said, I understand crunch is a part of the gaming industry, and it always will be, as much as the journals want to try to get rid of it, as much as unions are saying, oh, it's not okay. No, it is. Welcome to the entertainment industry. Until AI starts stepping up and taking away the challenges that you have at the studio, it's going to be impacting the employees. But this early on is wild to me. The game's not due out for like another 2 years, and they're already crunching on it just to get a demo out. That tells me that there's some major problems brewing already with it. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys posted. But for now, we'll leave that one right there.